Hi there, welcome back. Welcome back to the restoration of the Nordmende Transita TS Deluxe. And I've got something to show you. How about that, huh? It got done. It got done. I cannot tell you how long it took me because I lost track. This thing is the most difficult restringing I've ever done, and it just restored my dislike for the task. The instructions are fine. There's a little bit of confusion about how many turns you're supposed to put on the tuning condenser on the drawing. I initially put 3 and then I had to redo everything because the string then wasn't long enough. It actually is 2, and there's 2 on the pulley system as well. But I finally got it done, and it took a lot of using a piece of solder to guide it and pull it and use it as a hook and everything else, and it's it's very tight in there. But it's now working perfectly, and let me show you what it sounds like.
Na comunidade, incluindo as desportivas.
Antena 3
95.7.
Fazenda Ovelha, Paúl do Mar e Jardim do Mar.
As jornadas estão marcadas para as 2h15 da tarde no supermercado dos Olivais. Lauro António morreu ontem aos 79 anos.
So there we have it. We've got the FM working, and it actually sounds very, very good. I don't know what the alignment's like. I did put this to the correct position when the tuning condenser is completely closed and completely open, so it extends perfectly from that end to that end. No problem there. And I now wanted to look at the IF alignment for the FM, and that is a bit of a problem. That is a bit of a problem. And the reason is that it's extremely complex the way they've got it in here. Right, what we have here is the FM IF chain starting down here on the FM block. The signal then comes out of here as 10.7 megahertz, and it goes into the input of that transistor, which I believe is the mixer. Yeah, that's where all the bands get selected and get sent in, whether it's at 460 or 10.7. And then it goes through these filters. Now remember, we aligned these guys down here. Now we're aligning the top ones, and this is for FM. So we've got 1 transformer here, 2, 3, and we've got 4, which is the last one, where you have to treat the secondaries separately or differently. Now the way they describe it is completely different to this. Here's the description of the alignment. Now we've done that section over there. We've done these guys. This is the biasing. We've done the 460, and now they tell us that on FM, you have to do it one of 2 ways, either with a wobulator or a sweep generator, or simply with a signal generator. Now, they go into quite a bit of detail. They tell you to detune BF1, which is that first filter. They tell you to detune, I think it's filter number 3 as well. And I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this a lot simpler. I'm simply going to follow my logic, because there's a lot of detuning to be done here. And I've noticed that the reception is actually very, very good on there. So I'm going to do this, just a quick check to see if it's okay. The final stage, they tell us to adjust R142, which is a trimmer resistor trimmer, to reduce or to increase the AM rejection. We can do that as well, but we'll do it in a simpler way, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to inject a signal, 10.7 megahertz over here, and I'm going to inject it directly through a coupling capacitor, small capacitor, okay? And then I'm going to go through all these filters, and I'm going to measure the voltage across that discriminator capacitor as we normally do, okay? Because the DC voltage you get across here, it's a negative DC voltage, depending on which way around you put the probes. But the DC voltage you get here is an indication of how well the path has been opened up. And then at the end, we can adjust for fidelity and balancing of that circuit. There are again 2 ways of doing it. You can do it with those resistors. I might go that way, or I might simply look at the scope and adjust that one to get the least distortion. The one thing I won't be able to do with my method is I won't be able to adjust that transformer, that IF transformer, because what we normally do with the tube radio, for example, is we feed we lightly couple to this tube, which in the tube radios is obviously a tube. So it's getting the whole path, whereas in this case, I'm only going from there. I could probably try and find this point, but this is in a metal can. I don't want to open that if I don't have to. So we'll see if we can do something about that later. So first things first, I have to inject the signal in here. And this is A5 of the FM switch, which is quite easy to find. There's the FM switch. That is the A row or the A column, and that's the B column. And if I go down from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I've soldered this wire on here. I'm just going to connect the signal generator between here and ground, and that's my input signal. And then we have to measure at the capacitor, which is this little cap over here. And this cap was the 2 microfarad that I've done before. When I did the restoration, I replaced that capacitor with 2 1 microfarads in parallel, if you recall. It's pretty dark, but it's those guys down there. And that R142 is that trimmer pot right next to it. So if we start looking for which coils, which transformers to adjust, we're looking for BF2, primary and secondary, BF3, primary and secondary, BF4, primary and secondary, and BF5, primary only. BF1, which is that guy down there, is inside the front end container. We'll see what we're going to do about that. Now, where is this on the radio? And again, it's pretty obvious and very accessible. So we've got the transformer 2, primary and secondary. They're actually indicated as primary and secondary on here. 3, 4, and there's the 5 primary. These are all visible and accessible from the back. And then if we look for 1, we have a different situation. We have L77, and here's 76, 78, 77, 76, 78. Now, that's not indicated as transformer 1, but if we look at the schematic, we see that it's exactly here. So there's 77 or 76, and there's 77, 78. I'm not quite sure. This is the 78 looks like it's a tap in here. So we have to be very careful how we handle that one, but that's something I may do at the end. Let me set this up and see what we get. Maybe we'll have a good enough result anyway. Maybe it's pretty aligned anyway, because it certainly is receiving very well. So let me get on to that. I've set this up with the signal generator producing the 10.7 megahertz signal. It's a 1 millivolt signal and it's going through a 12 dB attenuation. It's connected to the back there where I showed you, and I've got the multimeter across that capacitor. And now I'm going to see if I can improve that without complicating this too much. Let's see what we get. There's a peak. Just a slight improvement, very slight. There's a peak. And a peak. These guys, practically no change. Very little change. There we go. That's the primary of the last one. That's our peak. And that, my friends, I think is it. Now to do the last one, I'm just going to look at the sine wave and see what kind of quality we're getting on there. I'm going to give the signal generated tone some modulation, FM modulation. There's our sine wave. Put that on dummy. There's a bit of distortion on there. Let's see if we can improve that a bit. No, no change at all. I think that's fine. The last setting is that little trimmer potentiometer that I showed you there, and that's for AM rejection. Now the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to put the same system going in. I've got it coming out of the speaker, I can hear it. FM modulation, 1 kilohertz tone. Now I'm going to change that to AM modulation. You can still hear it. Now the idea is I adjust that till I hear that the least. See, it's getting louder. Gets louder there. That point there in the middle is where it's least. And that is done. That is completely done. Now obviously this is not what they prescribe, but I'm going to call that good enough because I've been listening to the FM and it sounds absolutely fantastic. On the channels, on the stations that I normally get here quite strongly, the signal is clear, it's rich, so I'm going to let sleeping dogs lie and not create another problem for myself. I'm happy with this. And that means the IF alignment of the FM is done. And I'm just going to check, very quickly, check the positioning of the dial there, see if we've got any major discrepancies regarding the RF alignment. I don't think so, but I'm going to check. If those are fine, I'm going to consider this stage done. All that's still outstanding here is putting the speaker back, and I've put some new foam on here and on the front. All I did here is I cut a strip of foam, removed the old stuff which was all dried out, and glued it in. So I'm going to do that, put it in the radio, and we'll see what the result is. So what do you think? What do you think of this guy? This one came out absolutely fantastically. I'm really chuffed with this.
54,
and the sound on FM is astounding.
Filmes de Visconti. A cena de abertura é logo durante uma récita do
The AFC works beautifully.
No A Fenice de Veneza. É a história da paixão desvairada de uma condessa veneciana por tenente austríaco em meados do século XIX.
Speech and music.
Às 9h30, na Barata Salgueiro, em Lisboa. Quem estiver à noite em
The sound is astounding.
perto tem a oportunidade para ver no Teatro Valadares
And this is only with the rod antenna. I've got the mini whip or the external antenna put aside for now. For the FM, I wanted to test it.
inspirado no
And I'm really pleased, really pleased. This thing came out fantastically well. I'll show you where that stain was. This is one thing which I didn't get perfect. This stain, I sprayed it on the inside, and as you can see, it's a little bit duller than the chrome, than the actual chrome. So I would probably, maybe I might redo this because it's easy enough to remove the top. Although these knobs are very difficult to remove. Very difficult. In fact, that one's proving a little bit of a challenge to push all the way down because this is a switched pot. And so is that one. That's for the battery indicator. but I would probably remove all the chrome. Instead of having this dull and then bright, probably remove all the chrome and spray it all the same. Unless I can get a different type of chrome paint that shines to the inside. This might have something to do with which side of the paint gets air. Remember, this thing dries from the underside, so it doesn't come out too shiny. But nevertheless, I am very, very happy with this. Couldn't get rid of that, but quite honestly, I can hardly see it. I mean, if I look at it, I obviously know it's there, but it's done. The antenna is perfect. The handle is in perfect condition. And I do believe I'm probably going to lose this. I think my wife's probably going to appropriate it. Yeah, now, as far as the medium wave is concerned and long wave, I showed you some of that reception. I'm not going to go into that. I'm really just more pleased with so pleased with the FM that this is what this is for. This is a little FM radio. If I want to get world receivers, I've got world receivers. But it does pick up very well on shortwave and on the shortwave 49 meter band. Medium wave and long wave, not as good as it could be. I think it's got to do with the fact that the antenna is wired in a strange way. I would normally put a mini whip on here anyway. I don't receive any medium wave or long wave without an external antenna. So it's not the best on that, but on the others, especially on FM and on Luxe, this is it. This is love, okay? And just so you know that I'm not just making this up, I've just ordered another 2, and my wife doesn't know about it yet. I found another 2. One of them is wood, another one is leather. I think that's how it is. I know one of them is leather, and they are I believe they're the same model as well. So yeah, okay, I'm not going to bore you with those restorations again because it'll be the same as this, but I want to do it for myself. So we're at the end of this series, which was supposed to be a 1 video presentation, but it turned into a little bit more complex than I thought, and I learned a few things in the process. And what I want to do now is I want to listen to this, but I want to thank you for your company. I want to thank you for your comments. You guys have been great, and if you've enjoyed it, don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon. Links are at the end of the video and in the description below. Once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now, and stay safe.
No Palácio Sinal de Cortes foi inaugurada a exposição In Conflict, que representou Portugal na Bienal de Arquitetura de Veneza no ano passado. Revisita uma seleção de processos da arquitetura portuguesa